Hello friends, I am Jeyan G. This is our channel jeyansocial. Today we are going to discuss about privatization of public sector enterprises. What are the reasons for government is privatizing public sector enterprises? What are the benefits that we can gain from this? What are the challenges that involved in this process? And who are all going to affect by this process? That all we are going to reveal in this video. Privatization of public sector enterprises. Why we need privatization? Now the government is severely hit back by the COVID-19 pandemic. So due to that, our economy has collapsed. So India need to revive our economy. India need to spend more on our health sector. And in order to implement vaccination program against SARS-CoV-2 virus, government need more money. The main income of government used to get is tax. But the tax collection, that is GST, in the last year 2020 also not up to the mark. The shortage of tax collection, that also government plan to give to the states through borrowing. So government try to enforce more tax on petroleum and diesel products. There is an allegation against the government that government is charging more than 2 to 3 times of the cost price of crude oil. The real estate sector also severely affected by the impact of SARS-CoV-2 virus. So government cannot expect more from the real estate sector as of now. Then the next option that government has as of now is selling the public assets, that is disinvesting the public sector enterprises, otherwise called is privatization of public sector enterprises. So government now have a plan of disinvesting public sector units, 100 units. Through that, government has a plan of getting 2 trillion rupees investment from the private sector to the public sector. Then which are the way government is going to get this investment? The first option is wherever the government has more than 51% of shares, that may be sell to the private sectors. Through that, government get investment. Then next option is wherever the private sector is not yet allowed to invest, that sector need to be open to the private sector. So for instance, earlier the nuclear program department or the space department, otherwise the defense production department, wherever the impact of or investment of private sector is very restricted or very minimum only allowed. In the case of defense productions or space sector, where the private sector participation for some of the common productions where they have contributed a little. But now ISRO has Spacecom policy 2020, which allowed the private sector to launch satellite and control space station. So the private participation now in the space sector also increased. Then the private participation in defense production were also open to the private sector to the vast area, so they can contribute to the defense sector production as well. Because India's defense import is just second in the world only after Saudi Arabia. India also started disinvesting in the airport, where the disinvestment in the Air India also started. Then India also have a plan of disinvesting some of the assets in the railway, then some of the other areas like crude oil, gas, ship, airport. India has announced disinvestment in our budget 2021-2022 to meet the budget deficit. India has recently shortlisted 4 public sector banks to disinvestment, that means privatization. So usually whenever government try to take this kind of move, the employees, those who are working in those public sector, try to agitate against the government move, because they used to think that when the private companies take over those public sector enterprises, then they may give more pressure for them to work, as well as their job may not be guaranteed for them. Now let me see what are the benefits of privatization. When the public sector companies are privatized, government no need to spend crores of rupees on the revival of badly hit debt-driven public sector companies. The public tax monies won't be wasted on them. Now the private companies can invest for the revival of those companies, and at the same time new technologies also coming up in these public sectors, which will give more facilities to the public. At the same time, we need to think that when the facilities increases, then the charge of those facilities also increases, because the private companies mostly focus on profit. It will definitely boost our economy, but at the same time it will increase the cost of service for the marginalized people. So they may not afford those services. For instance, now people are mostly using the railway services because the ticket fare is low compared to even bus prices. and hence more poor people are affording these services. But when the private take over those companies and try to increase the ticket fare in the name of providing better services and providing good sanitation around the railway station, so the poor people may not afford those services. Then next problem is, in the public sector there is a reservation. So there is a reservation for ST, SC and OBC, that is scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, then the other backward class. But when these departments take over by the private player, then what kind of reservation they are going to give the marginalized people? That is a big question. Now the states like Haryana and Andhra Pradesh has enacted law, so they have reserved jobs for the local people through this act. But this act at all, how it is useful and how it is going to practically enforceable, that need to be decided by the Supreme Court. In recent time, the private yes bank also got under the scanner of malpractices and poor administration. So privatization is not the only solution for every problem. So government tried to think over alternative solution like giving more autonomy to the public sector and bringing good policies for the revival of the debt-driven public sector. Okay friends, what do you think about this video? Do you think that privatization is the only solution for the long-lasting historical problem in our public sector, or giving more autonomy and bringing better policy for the administration and revival of the debt-driven public sector will be the good solution? Give your opinion in our comment section. We shall meet again in our next discussion. Until then, take care. Love you all. Bye bye.